So our first panel is from the lab to implementation. And we've got a number of panelists that are going to be coming up here. So please come on up. And sit wherever. And do we need one more? No, we've got enough chairs. I'll be standing. It's easier, just, right? Have a seat. So let me just give very brief introductions. So on the far left, we have Tam Nguyen from University of Dayton, Panjata Karava from Purdue University, Gary, I always forget your last name, but Gary Hobbs, who's been instrumental in working with Panjata on, frankly, one of our biggest and to some degree most successful integrative projects. Amit Tabki from University of North Carolina, Charlotte, Jerry Dido from Charlotte, Piedmont, Central Piedmont Community College, and Branko Kirkes from University of Michigan. And we have a set of slides from each. If I had paid attention, I would have looked at that. But so the first set of slides are going to be given by Panjata and Gary, teaming up on telling us about what their project is and what has made it successful. So you said.
Thanks a lot, David, and thanks to all the other members from NSF who invited us to be here. Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to be here to present together with my community partner on behalf of our team. I would like to start by introducing the challenge we address in this project, which is the high energy burden for low-income communities. Spending more than 16% of their household income on utility bills, which is very high compared to 4% or less for average income households. So together with our partners, which have been BWI and also Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority, we have developed this big vision to develop new smart and connected technology to help affordable housing households understand, but also reduce their home energy use and improve their quality of life. This deep community engagement from the beginning of the project has been totally instrumental. It has inspired research that spans across discipline, including human-machine interaction, game theory, machine learning, behavioral sciences, and it has resulted into fundamental advances that include energy feedback mechanism design and social game design, among others. For example, we have developed a new socio-technical model that reveals causal effects in human decision-making and infers attributes affecting household response during an intervention. Two of our students who had a truly unique experience working with such a diverse team of researchers and community partners, Hee-Jong Kim and Vanessa Kurtek, are here sitting with us, and we believe there are great outcomes of these programs, so please do talk to them if you are interested. This research has resulted into new technology, our Smart Energy app, that is a community energy management system that we have deployed initially in collaboration with the Indiana Housing Authority and Gary in 94 households.
Thank you, Peñota. As Peñota has stated, we have, we have deployed the Smart Energy app in 94 apartment units across 2 cities, Indianapolis and Fort Wayne, Indiana. The overlook at the Fairgrounds project, the one here that has a beautiful mural on your screen, is in Indianapolis, and it's a mixed income community. So in other words, it has some market rate resident units as well as affordable units. And we are paying the utility bills for some of the units in that particular site, which allows us to pilot some gaming options and assess resident behaviors in both sets of populations. The other unit on your right with the solar panels is in Fort Wayne. We call it Posterity Scholar House. It's 100% affordable units. For that project, we have been targeting all single parents who are on welfare, but all those single parents are also enrolled in college to get a degree or to reach a certification to break that cycle of poverty. Now, on that particular project, I am paying 100% of the utility bills. And the utility allowance has been based on a HUD allocation, which amounts to about $250 per month per resident. So with this application, we're able to customize the gaming options and incentivize the residents to use less than the budgeted utilities. Now you'll hear a video shortly here about some of their experience. But first, when the project was started, we collected baseline data from our residents without any intervention. And we were able to do this using some of the smart thermostats, the smart power meters associated with that project. And while gathering that baseline data, we also recruited and onboarded several residents, or all the residents, I should say, to get them familiar with utilizing the application. Now, before the actual field deployment, our property management staff worked collaboratively with the Purdue researchers to prototype and refine the application to improve its usability. Now here on the next slide is an actual picture of the Smart Energy application that was actually built into each of the units in January 2020. It provides benefits to affordable housing residents and building owners like myself by reducing our actual energy bill. As I mentioned before, HUD actually determines a utility allowance for each county across the United States. We fundamentally believe that HUD utility allowance is relatively high or higher than what it really needs to be here with an application like this. So it gives an opportunity for us as developers to actually take advantage and increase our profits, if you will, when we're actually paying the utility bill for these developments. And also it allows us an opportunity, in our case, to give back some of those profits to the residents, right, to incentivize them in the form of various meaningful lottery gifts. So in addition, the application can be tailored to incentivize additional stakeholders beyond just the resident or the developer. For example, we feel that the local housing authorities can actually benefit with this type of technology. HUD can potentially benefit by lowering the utility allowance over time. Utility companies and providers can benefit. Insurance companies, and even appliance manufacturers, because we're able to measure the energy utilization by the circuit or the outlet.
Thanks a lot, Gary. So I'll continue with a brief demo of the technology that we're very excited about. So this is our Smart E. It has all the features of a smart thermostat, but also provides an energy score, which is a metric on a 0 to 100 scale that helps residents understand their energy use. It also provides daily tips to them to help them maximize their score and help them apply the tips on their schedule. The app facilitates the deployment of social energy games. For example, the which add an element of excitement and fun for the residents. The lottery game. In the lottery game, residents, when they increase their score, they can purchase tickets towards a weekly draw in which the winner takes it all. The community game is more collaborative. It has a common community goal, and when this is met, everyone who participates gets a reward. Through these games, we provide social proof information, so the residents can see the overall status of the community and how their peers and neighbors are doing. So through our interdisciplinary work and data collected from these two communities, we have been able to demonstrate our success. As you can see here in this graph, residents picked higher set points, as indicated by the blue dots, over the summer season during the intervention period, compared to baseline period, which is the red dots. Therefore, these higher set points during the summer means lower energy use, which can be as significant as more than 30%. We also had a lot of excitement and enthusiasm and participation from the residents, and here are some examples.
Just because I'm really close with my neighbor, like I know what her icon looks like and I know what mine is. Like I'll be in your house adjusting your things. Like we need these points. I like the lottery. I mean, it's more of a chance. I'm a competitive person by nature. So anytime, like when they first mentioned that, I was just like, okay, let's go.
So we have residents expressing their feelings about the app and how they check the community status, and hear what they feel about the usefulness.
I think it's great. I think that any kind of technological advance is moving forward. We're doing great. It's definitely helping me to be more conscientious of my usage, my energy usage, and really it's just a lot simpler.
So what the current steps are, from the beginning of this project, sustainability was our focus. So we are transitioning our technology into practice. In this process, we have already submitted a patent application. We are forming, together with Gary and his team, a startup company. And through an extension grant, supplementary grant that we received from NSF and from this program, and we are very thankful for that, we are planning to scale up our deployment in more than 1,000 units. This is the goal for the next 10 months, and in this process, we have developed already new partnerships with community stakeholders that are interested in utilizing the app to deploy energy efficiency programs. For that, we have developed already a plan with the Sustainability Office of the City of South Bend. We have talked to Tipmont, a progressive utility in Indiana. We have leveraged foundations. We are talking to many housing developers, including the NRP Group, which is one of the nation's largest multifamily real estate developers, with activity ranging from Florida to Texas to the East Coast to the Midwest. We're also talking with people from the governor's office in Indiana, and we hope to scale up our activities in Indiana and beyond even further. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Panjata. Let's cue up the... There we go. Okay, our next talk is kind of a combined talk with Hamed and Jerry.
Well, hello everyone. I'm going to present the work, but Jerry will participate in the panel. So, thanks to NSF to invite us to present our work here. I would like to also thank all the team, including co-PIs, Dr. Shannon Reed, Dr. Ravindran, almost Dr. Jerry Guido, for helping us and all the community partners that are helping us in this project. So we are trying to tackle a very sensitive topic. The core idea of this project is how we can use computer vision and recent advances in artificial intelligence to address public safety challenges within our communities. So just problem, kind of defining what is a problem, and kind of we all experience it in our daily life, is that we see an increase in urban population. In Charlotte, for example, we have seen the rapid growth. And at the same time, we are observing kind of continuous increase in crime per capita and shortage that we have in resources that we provide for law enforcement, and limitations that they have in the number of police officers that can be in community. And we are not even sure it is a good way of community policing, because creating tensions between law enforcement and marginalized communities, of course, we don't want to have that. And the question is, and the research question that we try to address is that, okay, so how can we use all these new technologies, computer vision, we are using it for self-driving cars right now, how we can use these technologies and bring them to our communities to address some of the public safety challenges. And the core idea is that, okay, what if we create this network of, self-aware cameras that are focusing on criminal behaviors in our community, and somehow notify the community residents, stakeholders, or law enforcement officers. But of course, we are not a technology project. We are a smart, connected community project. So we don't want to design anything in vacuum, and it's not going to work. People have done it. Big companies have done it. Microsoft in Toronto tried to do it. In Seattle, they tried to do it. Community had a pushback. So the question is that how we can, and that's why we are here. We are part of a Smart Connected Community program. How we can really co-create, co-design something the community accepted and they really want it. And we talk about the community, but the core question for us was, who are these communities? Who are we targeting? So we kind of have three different groups of community that can benefit from this project. One are, of course, residents and neighborhood leaders. So we start to engage them from our planning grants, talking to them and see what they need. And they all saying that public safety is one of their major challenges. In Charlotte, we have food deserts in West and East. And one of the major problems is that nobody is willing to go and put a grocery store there. And public safety is a major challenge. So you see the other impacts that it has in marginalized communities. But at the same time, they are worried that this is becoming a tool for law enforcement to over-policing. They are worried about the facial recognition technology. There are so many buzz about that. There is not a very good reputation about AI out there, right? So they don't want to have a big buzz, right? And at the same time, the trust building is very important. And that's why we are trying this grassroots approach. On the other hand, we have to work with law enforcement. They're gonna be one of the users of this technology. So again, thanks to my collaborator, Dr. Reed, we established many meetings with different local PDs, understanding their needs, and what kind of applications they see that would be the best benefit for them, would reduce the pressure on their resources. So one example was, okay, let's start with less high-profile crimes, low-hanging fruits one. Parking lot crimes are very important, as an example. So they directed us toward that. Also, we were kind of naive. We were thinking we're going to build a whole infrastructure. The community not going to accept it, the institution, law enforcement. We had to revise our technology as such that can be worked with existing infrastructure which is out there. So surveillance cameras, CCTV cameras are everywhere. They're just passive. So the question was that how can you make them more effective for us? But of course, we need to bring all the ethical issues that community and residents are worried about. At the same time, the other part, which are also equally important, are other agencies, city officials, local business owners, those that are running shopping malls. Those are also worried about public safety and the challenges for their customers. They want to have access to this technology. They want to see what kind of actionable insights we can provide to them with this technology. And what are the transparency and data access protocols for that? So all in all, through this continuous engagement with them, especially the first few years of the project, we got the planning grant 2017 and the IRG grant in 2018. So we end up to see that, okay, we have to create first a real-world demonstrator of our technology, how our technology works in action, and that will be very important for trust gaining engaging the community, and we want to build something based on all the inputs we are getting from all these different parties. So we created this first real-world testbed in Central Piedmont Community College, thanks to Jerry for her significant help in the last 2 years. We worked so hard on that, and we tried to navigate and understand all the community concerns and build a technology and testbed that exactly shows what these communities are asking for. And why CPCC? Why a community college? Because CPCC is highly integrated to Charlotte community. It really serves mostly underserved communities. At the same time, it has a strong program justice that is used for training local law enforcement officers. So that was a perfect testbed, real-world testbed for us. So we create this real-time crime lab at CPCC. Students are working there. We also just installed a server there, just AI server with a couple of GPUs that tap into the existing surveillance cameras and CCTV cameras that they have to show how this technology works in action. And what do we mean when we are just focusing on behaviors, no facial recognition, or technology has to be identity neutral and at the same time has to be real time without storing any PII information, personally identifiable information. So I'm gonna show you a couple of demos. I cannot show you the actual videos because it's part of our MOU with CPCC, and this is going to be the general protocol that we will do with other committees. We would not even have access to the actual videos. The only thing that we would able to show is what AI sees. Let's say I'm showing camera 1 or camera 4, and we're going to show more if you stop by in the demo. We have different cameras, different scenarios. And the core idea here is that not only we are able to detect human behaviors, which are very complex, re-identify them across multiple cameras, also we are able to do complex behavioral analysis and do anomaly detection. And based on the publicly available data, our accuracy is about 90%, but when you go to real world is really messy. It turns out that it's not so easy to just get existing algorithms and put them into cameras. So we built our own custom-made algorithms and AI pipeline. We have patented that, and we are willing to, provide these technologies for other groups that are interested. However, one other challenges that we had is that, with AI and machine learning, you need to create a lot of training data, and we didn't have that. Already a publicly available data set would not serve our need. We are looking at potentially hazardous abnormalities in our communities. So we had to create our own data set, which we call it Charlotte Anomaly Data Set. And for that, we also, again, work with communities. We identify a public parking lot. We discuss it with the local business owners. And then they gave us permission to release those videos, and we're going to release it soon to public to enable more research in this area as well. So as you see, this is a parking lot. We installed 4 cameras. This is short-term test bed. And then I'm going to show you what is the original video and what AI sees. And we've tried to test some ideas like anomaly detection, that you see something, anomalous is happening, and AI is able to flag that. And of course, we have some false positives, or false negatives, so we need to work on that. But our initial results, in real-world tests, are very encouraging and very promising, and we want to scale it further. But one important challenge here is that, okay, you do the AI processing, so what? How do you bring back this information to the community, to the stakeholders? So we built this cloud infrastructure that is able to create the higher level analytics on top of what we are doing in our AI vision pipeline and provide situational awareness, actionable insights to the end user. And for that, we developed a mobile app. This is a beta version of our app that basically what users are seeing, not actual videos, just they can see different cameras in their own community. Here I'm showing the CPCC, of course, or current testbed. They can see, okay, what is the overall occupancy? They can see the bird's eye view at that moment of how many people are and how they are using the space. They can see the average commute, people that are using that space. They can even see the heat map over time, that how this space has been used and what are the behaviors. And of course, they will be notified if something anomalous is being detected by the technology. And we are still working on that because it's very important that finally the app and the SDK that are going to be built going to help us to integrate our technology to the existing ecosystem and infrastructure. And so moving forward, so what are the next steps? And I saw David was talking about how we can go beyond NSF funding and how you really scale your technology. So right now, we are fine-tuning our technology with the direct input from the communities. Moving forward, we're already negotiating and discussing to establish new real-world test beds in different contexts, hospital setting, downtown area. That's we are moving toward using our technology in more city center-like environment in Charlotte. And of course, we established a new collaboration with Sam Houston State University, Department of Homeland Security to see what are the other test beds even in other states that we can test the technology. And the target goal is to get this successful integration with real community system that law enforcement can also use and benefit from technology, as well as other, residents and community stakeholders. Thank you so much.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Tam Nguyen, and it's a great pleasure for me to be here to present our research project, Cloud AI Sensing-Based Traffic Analysis for Ho Chi Minh City Planning Simulation. And we have community partners from Vietnam, the Vietnam National University, Ho Chi Minh City, and Ho Chi Minh City People's Committee. So when we ask our collaborators, our partners about the problems in Vietnam, and they say that the biggest problem should be the traffic. So I show you the one example right here. We have the heavy traffic causes serious congestion in Ho Chi Minh City, and this one happens every single day. And the motorcycles over there account like 90% of all the urban transportation. So some people told me that if you want to cross the street in Vietnam, you just close your eyes and you are, okay? And it works all the time. It works all the time. Don't try that, okay? Don't try that. And then when people try to make the planning for the traffic, like the street, and normally they do this way. They ask people go to the street and they use a clicker. So one vehicle pass, click, click. And the thing is, people are very tired and they cannot work 24/7. And also, if they want to apply the city planning, they must use maybe mock-up data. So that's not very appropriate. Because of that, so we come up with the project. So here we integrate the traffic analysis and urban planning simulation into a unified system. So we combine computer vision, machine learning, AR, VR together within the same framework. And the development of the simulation hope to help the city authorities in Ho Chi Minh City to tackle the problem with the traffic and to handle the growing traffic volume in the process of urbanizations. So right here, I show you the figure where we have the traffic analysis component, where we are able to track, to detect, and to count all vehicles go in different directions, and then we feed the information into the dense traffic graph to fit into the city planning simulator. And this is our progress from the community perspective. So we, from the US team, we design and implement the traffic analysis component. So we achieved accuracy rate up 90%, and we implement the city planning simulations. In the meantime, our Asian team from Vietnam, they help us collect the traffic data from Intelligence Operations Center, IOC. So that's very important because without them, we cannot access to the traffic camera grid. And after that, they also help us for the project implementation, and especially they help us for some pilot study and demonstration to the city authorities. So because we have international collaboration, so we organize the bi-weekly meetings with them on Zoom and to keep track of progress. So from academics perspective, so of course we're from university, so we target on publications. So far we published 20 papers. We supervised 6 meta theses, and recently we received the runner-up award at ICT Challenge, organized at CPR conference. So here I show you a quick demo what we have done. So from the right-hand side, you can see that we have the city planning simulation. So we can see that here, this is the real street, the real traffic in Vietnam. And we build the 3D models of all of them, and you can see that, hey, the tiny one, the tiny vehicles, we also simulate that thing. And where we get the data from? So we get the data from the city traffic analysis. From the left-hand side, you can see that it's really a big mess in Vietnam, like all vehicles going around, and actually we figure out the patterns. They try to fill in the gap. So if they find the gap, they try to fill in. So you can see that our system able to detect, track, and count the vehicles from different directions. And from that, you can see that the city planning simulator can be used to help city authorities to check what happened if we add a new bridge or a new road to the city. Yeah. So that's it for my presentation. Thank you very much.
And we have our last presentation with Branko Kirkes, University of Michigan.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Cool. Sounds good. So I'm here representing a much bigger team. It's actually technically a project ended in this year, so I'm here to report sort of on the general journey we've had over the years. So just to sort of contextualize a little bit, it looks like this clicker thingy, just the green button. It looks like it's not showing up on the little TV here. Click. Oh, that one. There's two green buttons. Talk about design. All right, are we good here? I still don't see it over here, but I guess I'll, let me see if I can step back. There we go. All right, I'll just do it this way. I don't see it up here. Okay, so effectively, we'll just start off by contextualizing the problem a little bit. Flooding, some of you might know this already, but flooding is the leading cause of natural disaster fatalities in the United States, actually globally. It's bigger than earthquakes and wildfires put together, so it's a big problem. And simultaneously, you have untold quantities of stuff washing off into our river systems. Looks like somebody's controlling my slides. Okay, cool. It seems like this problem, the community that we're trying to help here, would be the residents that are experiencing these day-to-day issues. But in fact, our position has been for a long time that as technologists and researchers, we might not have the business to necessarily do that, in particular in this application. So the people that we work with are municipal stormwater managers, whether at the county level, the city level, the municipal level, including many nonprofits, and their pain point is very acute. It's basically, low amount of resources and staff to manage hundreds and hundreds of square miles of area that's affected by these kind of issues. And they use established solutions that have been used for quite a long time, in many cases since Roman times. But they're also deeply acutely aware of technology and what it might bring. And so what we've been doing is working with them over the years to sort of put together an image of what the cities of the future might look like when we talk about specifically a stormwater. So you can imagine, in the era of the self-driving car, cities that are covered by sensors that measure the flow of water, the levels of water, water quality, and that information is being used to derive insights, but more so than that, it's used to steer the city towards some sort of desired outcome. And so when we kind of drew up this idea, we initially started building the technologies, this was in 2017, even before that, to sort of enable that. So at the core of this are sensors that allow us to measure what's happening. So in this case, this is a water level sensor, but we have lots of different things that can take these measurements. But then we also wanted to sort of evoke this idea of, again, self-driving water systems. And to do that, you have to be able to control the flow of water. And so what we've been doing is building these valves, effectively, and these gates and pumps that are connected to the internet that allows control the actual flow of that water. And so we were super excited about this some time ago, and this is when we submitted the project. And we brought together a number of municipal partners, a number of academic organizations that you can kind of see on here. And I remember specifically during our reverse site visit, Dr. Corman asked us, how many valves is it going to take for the city of Houston? And I remember at the time I felt like I needed to have an answer for that. But in hindsight, it kind of it's good as a researcher not to be able to have an answer for something, right? You can go look for it, and that's kind of the point of research. So we came together and we realized before we can get thousands of valves out there into the world, we needed to understand how these systems scale, both at the site scale, like within the actual lab, out in the community, and then ultimately we can build these kind of control algorithms and other kind of things that we're interested in building. And there's lots and lots of stuff that happened during the project, but I wanted to really call out our social science team and our collaborators that we worked out with very closely that helped us understand how residents and decision makers perceive these tools. And so they carried out, I think it was almost 1,000 surveys across the United States, drawing images and visualizations of what these systems might look like one day and asking residents, if this is in your backyard one day, what are you going to think about it? How are you going to perceive it? And I think the biggest thing that we learned from our sociology friends and the various ethnographers that were out in the world is not necessarily what would work, but what would not work. And that was a massive kind of sort of moment for us to try to calibrate all our various other approaches as we were going along. And that kind of brings us to how our community members perceive the outcomes of this project. So here's Harry posing with this awesome concrete pipe. We're very proud of it. But what he told us is basically that adding valves to these systems makes them seem like as if they're twice as big than they actually are. So basically, by adding real-time control to stormwater infrastructure, it makes it seem bigger. It makes it act bigger. Or you can build it half the size, if that's another way you want to think about it. But it translates to actual savings and resources that the city can use and spend on other things. And so there was an article, this was when we were in Kansas City quite some time ago when we gave a talk together, that basically showed that the city of Ann Arbor, just by installing this one valve, was able to sort of realize a number of savings. And that's when things started sort of effectively just kind of scaling up for us. So here you see the city of Detroit. It's actually one of the largest sewer systems in the world. It has the largest wastewater treatment plant in the whole entire country. And all these assets come together and they can actually control them in real time. So what you see here is a 30-foot sewer pipe, and when they press a button, this pillow inflates. And this sewer pipe basically turns into a dam underneath somebody's house, effectively, if you want to think about it that way. And so it becomes a dynamic asset that you can control in real time. And so what we've been doing, and the students in particular, have been spending a lot of time with the operators of these systems, trying to figure out how to take these hundreds of sensor feeds and distill them into actionable insights that can be used on a day-to-day basis to control these systems and get them to achieve some sort of desired outcomes. And just some initial work that happened a few years ago basically showed that just by reprogramming the system, which is a really weird thing to think about, like reprogramming water systems. Keep in mind, like what we teach students in school is water flows downhill, and that's kind of what it does. Well, actually, it's sort of in this modern age, you can reprogram these systems. And what we saw just in Detroit is that just by changing how the pumps operate, you can reduce overflows of these sewers by 100 million gallons. And if you had to build that much storage, that would turn into $500 million. So just thinking about, rather than building more, squeezing more performance out of the systems that you currently have. And around this time, we were very fortunate to receive a transition to practice grant with the idea of sort of putting these technologies in other people's hands. We had various workshops and try to sort of get the stuff into the hands of the community members who wanted to use it. So this is an image in Detroit where we deployed a really large sensor network to measure flooding and the performance of green stormwater infrastructure with the Sierra Club in Detroit. And basically what this allowed us to do is just continue scaling these devices. So we started building them. So these are the water level sensors I was talking about earlier. We put them on bridges and culverts, and we put out more and more of them, and it just kind of keeps going. This is a network north of Detroit. At the end of last summer, this is what our sensor network looked like through the transition to practice grant. So this is 2,000 square miles in the Detroit metro region. All these dots are sensors that were deployed by students and community members to measure the performance of these stormwater systems, to do things like real-time flood alerts, and this is what the network looked like at the end of the summer. So it got to the point now where the state of Michigan is actively investing into these technologies because they see the value for their crews, for their staff, to manage all these events. So we're super happy to see this map, and sort of just to kind of close out the slide, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of these other journeys that we took. So when the program was officially announced in 2017, I believe this was the first round of grants, right? This image was on there that featured our students, and I just wanted to point out this student right here. So this is Brandon wearing his hard hat. It's always safety first, right? What happened was Jonathan Sprinkle, is he in here somewhere? Yeah, so he told us, he was basically, for all of you who remember the prior meetings, he was pitching I-Core. You should consider I-Core. If you think you have something, maybe try to get it out into the world. What we did, I just had no idea how much work it was going to be. It was a tremendous amount of work, but it ended up being really valuable because we visited hundreds of people around the country to try to figure out what their pain points were with stormwater management and how some of these solutions that we're building could potentially help, if they can help. And so we spend a lot of time with people, and what they basically told us, hey, these boxes you're building are kind of cute, but they're really not that, in the field, they're not that handy. If you really need this to scale, and if you want it to scale, it needs to be easy to use. And this is where the startup sort of came about. This was, again, from I-Core into a startup, and what this shows you is Brandon's sensors that he designed. These are devices that can be put out into the world really within a few minutes and swapped out within a few minutes, almost like the old Netflix model. Sensor breaks, send the new one, you know, the new one comes in the mail and you swap it out really quickly. And the goal was that anybody with a screwdriver could effectively start deploying their own sensor networks. And this is when we started seeing these scales. So we launched a startup during the pandemic. And this just shows you the devices in the field. And this is the city of Cleveland right now. It's probably one of our densest sensor networks. This is no longer a test bed, it's an operational network that's being supported by the communities within that region. And as we kind of keep going, we're realizing that not only can we build these hardware devices, but we have to be solving real problems in the field. And so we're working a lot on workflow integrations and apps and other kind of things that make this data not just useful, but actually usable. And that's a subtle distinction, but it's a big distinction when you're working with people in the community. And so we're currently being supported also by an SBIR that's allowing us to take these individual data points and turn them into sort of like maps and other kind of tools for the various groups that we're working with. And so this is as we grow and as we kind of reach new areas of the United States, these are all the various partners that were kind of like, that are becoming users of these technologies. And as of this past summer, this is the current network that's being supported outside of the university, but using all those various tools that are sort of inspired the development of all this. So this is the Hi-Fi network, and I'll just close off with a picture of Brandon, because I really get excited, because it's a student that went through the program, and he's running his own stuff out there now. And just recently this year, the company won the Verizon Climate Resilience Prize. It was basically a big competition for climate resilience, and this was the #1 startup selected for it. And Dr. Corman had asked me to put how the investments that were made into our project sort of manifested. I'm listing here really concrete investments that were made subsequently, but it's really hard to quantify actually these various savings and other kind of benefits that the communities got out of it. And it's hard for me to list those and turn them into numbers. I think I showed you what happened in Detroit and other places. But yeah, this is where we're going. I think it's not necessarily slowing down. If anything, things are picking up. We're just really excited to be here and talk to you more about it. Thanks.
Great, thank you. So I've prepared a set of questions, but we'd also like to first see if our audience has any questions that they want to ask our panelists about their projects. Yeah, okay. See the gentleman on there, the microphone, then I'll get to the one.
This is a question about that last talk. I thought that was great. And could you describe the sensors in a little more detail? Like, how are they deployed? What are they sent? Are they downward looking at a water surface? And then are they cell phone linked to some central place? And like, how does that, tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure thing. Okay, cool, this works. Yeah, so technical questions about how the sensors work. It's basically just a stripped down cell phone. It's cellular, you take away the screen and all the other stuff, you got a little microprocessor on there, and then we have a ton of different sensors that we can connect to it, but the one I was showing earlier is an ultrasonic depth sensor. It basically, just sends a signal down, a sonar signal, measures how long it takes for it to get back, and that's how we can get water levels. And so that's how that one works. Most of the connectivity that we're getting these days is cellular. It's just really, it's become reliable, including in some of the remote parts of Michigan where we're working where we thought it wouldn't work, but all so far reporting really well.
Thank you for the great set of presentations. I have a question for Branko, but also for Panagiota's team. For Branko, I was wondering if you were able to test the effectiveness of different types of stormwater management techniques, the pillow versus something else, perhaps. And on your end, I was wondering what the rewards were to the community members who participated. You had mentioned that you were forwarding some of the profits from the savings back to the community or the games that they play. What were some of the reward systems? What do they win when they won?
So the question was, are we using the data to make a comparison between maybe some of these dynamic solutions and then individual kind of existing infrastructure solutions, which usually boil down to concrete and steel. They call it gray infrastructure, and then there's these green solutions that are popping up. So when we worked on the project, we were always really excited about real-time control, but that's a really big leap for a lot of communities. So in fact, the question is really, really good because that's where most of the work has been, is like, how do you use the data to figure out how well your infrastructure is working? And it's kind of surprising to some people, but most communities don't know if the stuff is even working to begin with, and which is really interesting. You'd think engineers would collect data and kind of make adjustments afterwards, but the reality is, especially in the United States, you built the infrastructure and then you come back 100 years later when you say it doesn't work anymore, right? And so in a lot of these cases, yeah, they're using it for adaptation strategies that are more on the annual basis. Like, is this working? If it's not working, do we need to change how big the pipe is or something like that? So that's probably the bulk of the work, and the real-time control is almost more like the cherry on top of, like, that's fun, but it's gonna take a little bit more time to get comfortable around that.
Okay. I hope you can hear me. So I think the question was about the details of the game and the rewards we give back to the residents. So we have a socio-technical model of the community that predicts potential energy savings, so that determines what are the rewards that the community manager can give back. So we have tried different rewards for the lottery game, such as a $50 reward that goes only to one member of the community. Imagine these communities have 50 households or 44 households. So definitely the savings are possible for the community manager, and for the community game, the rewards are much smaller that go to each household. We have tried $5 and $10 on that. So we do have a business model, just to clarify.
So David, I'm gonna chime in. So Mikhail and I will be the voice of the Slido folks. So I'm going to be posing some of the Slido questions, but I'm seeing that a lot of questions are coming in through Slido, and due to time, we may not be able to get to all of them. But if your question goes unanswered, we really encourage you to meet with the PIs. They'll be at the demos, at the poster sessions around. So please ask your questions. So I'm just going to quickly ask a question for Tam that came in through Slido. Tam, does your tool support additional interventions for city planning beyond flyovers, which in some cases are viewed as costly and ineffective by some urban planners?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for the questions. So the tool support the intervention beyond the flyovers. So it can save a lot of cost, and they can support the effectiveness for some planners, because we also joined the ICOS program. So we talk to a lot of companies about construction companies, and they say that normally they do the planning or study by using the user study. So that's not very convenient and not very appropriate for the data collections. So our work can save the cost and can provide effectiveness to some planners. Thank you.
So actually, one of the questions that I had posed several questions, and one of those questions is very much related to the question that was raised there, that was raised there. How is working let me pose this to each of the teams. How has working with end users in multidisciplinary perspective changed your thinking and design? And to add to that, what has failed sometimes, and how have you adapted? So let me start, first of all, with Hamid. You have to press the...
Oh, okay. So in our case, our project evolved a lot. So first, on the technical side, we learned that the community, there is an existing infrastructure, and our technology has to work with that. Also, with the community, what we learned was that, initially we wanted to establish a real-world testbed in Camp North End, and at the beginning they were interested, but then they pushed back and they didn't let us to, install our technology. That's why we started with S&CC after that. Was realize that the trust building is very important, and the community needs to see something as a real-world demonstration of technology in action. And at the same time, the other aspects was, we knew that we don't want to do facial recognition, but it was not enough. We had to design a whole new infrastructure for protecting all PIIs that was directed from the community to us.
Jerry, would you like to add something?
Again, I think Hamed spoke to the trust that's needed. I think we have a very bad habit of pushing things like this top down, and this is just simply something that won't work that way. You have to have buy-in from the community. You can't go to the community first without a product, and I think that's one of the lessons learned. So you have to have the product show the community, and you have to show them that you're going to be ethical with it, because that's one of the biggest challenges when we use technology is, you know, and I'm one of those people, I think Siri's a nosy neighbor, and I think Alexa's an annoying mother-in-law. You know, I am one of those people that needed to be proven that technology is used for good, and I think you have to take the time, and I think you have to have a lot of patience and persistence with the community and let them actually come to the lab, see it, work with it, and they need to understand it in order to get buy-in, and I think that patience is the biggest tool that's available.
So Branko, that question, along with the fact that you're providing something which is not really to individuals per se, it's really to communities. So we've seen great success, but how have they really shaped that success, and have you had some stumbles along the way?
Probably mostly stumbles, but I guess learning opportunities, however we want to phrase that positively, right? And to your question about what lessons have we learned about how to work on these kind of projects, the biggest thing for me, and I think each one of us would maybe have slightly different kind of takes on this, was going back to what I said earlier, the distinction between useful and usable. Like, all these things that we think about in engineering and science are inherently useful. Like, how can more data not be useful? But the thing is, it's not usable. And we wouldn't have understood that had we not been riding in the morning in the truck with the crews that were visiting the sites, or asking people, hey, when you wake up in the morning, why do you use the Fox 13 weather app versus this really cool one that your utility is paying for? And a lot of that boils down to almost like user experience, which is kind of weird for me as an engineer because I'm not trained in that. So it was really learning how to take all these things, understand people's workflows, to give them what they want and what they need rather than the thing that you think is really, really cool. So even though I thought real-time control was really cool, it seems like people wanted some other things, and we need to just accept that some of the things that we think are interesting may not be that interesting to others, and that's okay too, because at the end of the day, you know, we want them to use it, so.
There was also a question there on essentially the maintenance of it. You know, you build something, you deploy it. Mm-hmm. What does it cost to maintain?
It costs a lot to maintain when you're a university because every sensor you get out there comes with a graduate student. So inherently, and that was actually a really difficult thing, talking about stumbling blocks. The transition to practice grant got us to the point where it was like people are like, hey, that sounds really cool, we want to try it. And then all of a sudden you got everybody on, and it's like, how do I sustain that now moving forward? Because it's, you know, it's not that cheap really when you think about the research that comes along with it. And so transitioning that into an organization whose sole purpose is to sort of lower the costs in that was a big challenge. And a lot of our effort went into, I know I just showed one picture of it, but was making the device easy to use. It was like the challenge of, okay, how can anybody who knows how to use screwdriver start deploying sensors? And it took us a long while to kind of sort that out, but that allowed us to reduce the costs and really bring it down. Again, it's all TBD, we'll see how it works, but
okay. So Gary and Panjata, what kind of, how's the community accepted, as well as how they shaped the activity?
Yeah, from a community perspective, from a community perspective, I mean, it took some time to get folks, our residents, engaged with utilizing the technology, and I think one of our biggest lessons learned holistically from a research and community perspective is the importance of consistent and ongoing communication with the residents, researchers, property management staff. And I would say, it took some time, especially throughout the pandemic period, to really get that engagement level up and keep the excitement up there with varying some of the lottery gifts and prizes as well.
So Panjata, how do you get your graduate students you know, interacting with the residents is not usually a typical graduate student activity.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thanks, David. I was very blessed to have really students who are excited about this project. I think, and they have really done an amazing job visiting the communities and interacting with residents. I think you just have to create that passion in the student. I had my students come here in the 2017 meeting. They were just starting the program at the time, and that really helped them a lot, get inspired, see other teams, and understand the value and the impact is very important. Also, you have to build the right team so the students feel they do have support and they don't do everything on their own. We have Gary's team doing installations, etc. And also we have our own software developer. So when they put something in someone's house, that's a big deal. We're not talking about outside things maybe you don't care so much about. It's inside your home, right? So the software has to work. We have our own full-time software developer.
Okay, great. And let me ask Tam, similar question, but one of the keys to success, I think, is the fact that it's not just you working in Dayton, it's you working with people in Vietnam. So can you tell us about that communication and the kind of people that the role of the in-country people?
Yeah, so we're very fortunate to have collaboration with Vietnam, and we talk to people's committee in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City. And first, we have to build a trust, and we want to showcase a demo to them. And the first thing, we fail, because we showcase a model with the AI model trained from the data from the US, and it's failed in Vietnam. And after that, we say, hey, can we try again? And after that, we try with the new data, and then we get from the internet, and after that, we succeed. And after that, we build trust, and then we talk to them, what do you need? And then they say that they want to build a system, try to not to get a job from people, but try to support the staff from Ho Chi Minh City. And then we work with them, and then we have meeting with them, and then better we get a good progress. And we also say thanks to NSF, because without NSF S&CC program, we cannot have collaboration with the Vietnam side. Thank you.
I think we have time for one more question, and let me actually take a couple of these and get individuals. So how did you realize, so Hamid, you know, in kind of encapsulating some of the questions, when you talk about policing, everyone bristles, okay? And so how did you really build trust with the community? And what failed it's not an easy process. So tell us how you did it and where do you think it's headed?
I think one of the most important things we did is we involved students. And at the community college, the word community happens to be in our name. And we have 6 campuses, and we are embedded in the community. And our sole purpose is workforce development to serve students and ensure their success. So to get students involved that come from underserved populations, and to ask them, you know, how would this work in your community? And what would your friends think of this? Very basic questions. And take that feedback, and they were involved in making some of the training videos. And, you know, they were the ones that came in and said, yeah, they're gonna shoot your cameras if you put them up there. You have to take that feedback and you have to be transparent. I think that's one of the most important things, and you have to trust in the feedback that you're getting, and you have to accept it.
Okay, a lot of interesting questions on the Banjata Berry project. So one of those questions is really, so there are a couple sides. One is, can you see what everyone else does, or is it aggregated together? And 2, how do you protect individual privacy?
Yeah, good point. We're very sensitive to this, and we worked carefully on that aspect. You don't see the energy use or the performance of all the other people in the community. Everybody has an avatar, which is like a cartoon, so you just see this information there, but you don't know who your neighbor is. So that definitely we respect privacy. We also present aggregated data about what is the average of the community, not the average of every household. We never present data that are specific to the household, but aggregated. 13 neighbors increase their score, or X neighbors are in the game. The average is 80, help us increase it further. But really, we have never seen any issue with that information. It's the opposite. The residents truly like this. They really want to know what's going on, and they feel part of the community. So that's a positive rather than a negative thing.
So one last point is, as the project evolves with, I think, 1,000 more units, other communities, do you have any expectations of challenges that you'll find? So Gary, what do you think?
Yeah, we're fully expecting some challenges. I think some of the biggest ones are going to be just the onboarding aspect. For residents who it's their first time engaging with this type of technology, there'll be a little bit of apprehension. So for us, just being kind of patient with them through that onboarding process and helping them really understand the benefits. And as soon as they win a prize, they're pretty much kind of all in at that point. So. But it will be a process to get there.
And I do remember one of the questions I asked at the reverse site visit, which was, does anyone get excited over, would they get excited over a $50 price? The answer is, you start talking $50, $5 maybe, $50 is something that, hey, you don't find lying in the street or floating in the ocean. Although I did find $50 bill in the ocean off Myrtle Beach before. It doesn't happen very often. So are those, you've tuned that because the residents tell you that that makes a difference?
That is correct.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So there are a number of other questions. I think we'll be able to filter some for the various teams. And I wanted to thank everyone here. These are projects we think are really, they started, they're having community impact, and they're showing the power of engagement and strong research and having an impact. And that impact really depends on that engagement with the community. And unless you're deeply involved in it, it's not going to last. So wanted to wish all our panelists well and give them a round of applause. And I'm sure they'll